Welcome, Lumineers and fans of the happiest card game on Earth. My name is John T, and you've just been put in the inkwell. We've got a couple of new card reveals to look at today, but before we do, a few little announcements. First of all, I'm imagining I'm telling a lot of you something that you already know, but if you don't and you are a fan of Disney in any way, shape or form, I must recommend Once Upon a Studio, a new short that was aired on ABC but can now be found on Disney+. It features a smorgasbord of characters lovingly recreated in a beautiful homage to the studio. I have no problem telling you that I cried all the way through it. I'm even thinking about it now, I'm welling up a little bit. It really is lovely. Please go check it out if you haven't already. Secondly, I'm also very pleased to announce that I will be starting a new live show with my good buddy and awesome content creator Brandon, also known as B224. It'll be right here on the channel every Monday at 8:30 Central, that's 9:30 Eastern. We'll be going live straight after the Illumina's Lorcana live show. So basically, Monday night is now Lorcana night, and you can make a whole evening out of watching live Lorcana content. We'll be taking a look at the news, including card reveals and tournament results. We'll be having weekly recurring features such as Main Street Market Watch and Card of the Week, and we'll be looking at all of the topics that are getting the Lorcana community talking. You may well see the occasional familiar face joining us as well. Our first episode will be on the 23rd of October, live here on the channel, where we'll be talking about Rise of the Floodborn reveals, and Brandon will be telling us all about the Miami TCG convention that will be happening this weekend. We are both super excited about launching this, and we would love to see you there. Alright, moving on to a few reveals, and we have 3 to look at today, and they're all very similar in theme. There's definitely a real vibe coming here. I've got a feeling that all of these, at least in part, are going to be found in one of the starter decks, because that's Merlin is the face of them, and they all seem to want to work together. But here we go, a 4-costed, uninkable 2/3 for 1 lore in Amethyst, Merlin Rabbit. He's a Storyborn Mentor Sorcerer with the ability Hopty Hip. When you play this character and when he leaves play, you may draw a card. Awesome artwork on this rare card from Michaela Martin. So this is a rabbit who loves to bounce. And honestly, this is a fantastic card, I think. It's obviously going to get you more mileage than Maleficent Sorcerer, but because of that does cost a little more and is uninkable. But I still actually think in the right decks, this is easily a 4 of. First of all, it doesn't dictate how he leaves play, so whether he's banished or bounced or put into the inkwell, you get to draw that card. So you're always getting 2 cards off this guy no matter what. But also, and perhaps more importantly, he works with a lot of the other stuff we're seeing in Amethyst that's all based around this idea of bouncing cards from the table back into your hand. You can see that best in this one, a 3-costed inkable 4/3 for 1 lore, Madam Mim Fox. In Amethyst, she's a Storyborn villain sorcerer with the ability Chasing the Rabbit. When you play this character, banish her or return another chosen character of yours to your hand. She also has Rush. Another rare card here with art by Alice Bissoni. So in the film, Madam Mim and Merlin are enemies, and these arts here depict the fight, the battle at the end where they turn into various different creatures. But in the game, these 2 cards actually work quite well together. The wording is a little clunky on this, but basically when you play this character, you have to return another character of yours to your hand, else this one just goes straight into the banishment. But if you've already got a Merlin Rabbit on the table, Madam Mim can come down and basically act like a slightly better Rafiki, coming down, hitting it into something, Merlin bouncing back to your hand and allowing you to draw a card, and then she's able to deal with something on the board, and you haven't really lost any board presence. You've just got a bit of a tempo shift, then being able to replay Merlin next turn and carry on with that card draw. Like Amethyst needed card draw, right? But still, really exciting stuff. And then today we got the 3rd Merlin card and the 3rd card from this animal sequence. Oh no, actually no, Merlin Squirrel happens a little earlier. I don't think this is actually part of the fight. But anyway, we have a 2-costed inkable 2/1 for 1 lore in Amethyst, Merlin Squirrel, Storyborn Mentor Sorcerer. Look before you leap. Yes, this is where he's teaching Wart, isn't it? Look before you leap. When you play this character and when he leaves play, look at the top card of your deck. Put it either to the top or the bottom of of your deck. Just a comment, this one with awesome art from Brian Weiss. So this one isn't quite as impactful as Rabbit, but I still think this is a relatively solid card. It's kind of a Yzma, really. Again, in a deck where you are bouncing stuff, it's a even better Yzma. Whether or not this sees play over Ursula's Cauldron really depends on whether or not sorcerers get some support, or whether this sort of bounce archetype, really is so strong. The problem with bouncing stuff constantly is at some point you do have to just sort of develop your own board, and every single time one of these cards comes back to your hand and gets replayed again, it needs to have its ink redry. So you're only going to be able to get away with so much bouncing before you've actually just got to sort of commit to a win condition. That win condition could be Merlin Shapeshifter that we've already seen, but I do feel like you're going to have to do quite a bit of work to get him up to the lore counts that you would just find on other bodies already. So whilst I don't necessarily think all these bouncing shenanigans are broken, like a lot of people are saying, I do think they're incredibly interesting and a really fun design space to be in, both thematically and mechanically. And I'm excited to see what other ones we get. Will this starter deck just be full of all of them? It would be really interesting to see. There's still a lot there could be. I'm pretty sure Merlin, turns into a turtle, a caterpillar, or a walrus. A mouse, a crab, a goat during the main battle, and other ones earlier on as well. Madam Mim during the battles is a cat, a crocodile, a fox, a chicken, an elephant, a tiger, a snake, a rhino, and then obviously she finishes up being a dragon before Merlin turns into a germ. So all of those could be cards, and all of them could have bouncing shenanigans, and it could all be kind of crazy, really. I'm very excited. So that was it for full card reveals. The last thing I did want to talk about is that the OP kit instruction booklet has been made available on the Ravensburger brand website, and it's mostly pretty much the same as the first one, but it goes over the pins that we can give out, the promos that we can give out, and what have you. The reason I'm talking about it now is, interestingly, somebody spotted, Cable was the first person I saw spot this. They've actually given you suggestions, just like they did in set 1, suggestions for giving out points in the league. So set 1, there was have 3 Mickeys on the board, that kind of thing. Here we've got some different ones, and these do give us an idea of some of the cards that we get to see in the game, just basically by their names. So we can see here have Winnie the Pooh and 2 of his friends in play, which suggests we are going to see at least 2 more cards from 100 Acre Wood, whether that be Christopher Robin or Eeyore, Piglet. We just don't know yet, but we do know that we're going to get at least 2 more. Although I suppose it doesn't necessarily. It definitely means we're going to get 1 more, because it could be referring to the Tigger that we got in set 1. But I do feel like with the amount of cards we've seen from Winnie the Pooh already, and things like Bounce and I'm Stuck, I do feel like we're going to see more characters from it. Have Snow White and 2 dwarves in play, with a bonus point for having 7 different dwarves in play. This is interesting because it basically confirms that all the dwarves are coming as separate cards. There was a little thing where people could see the back of one of the starter decks, and it just read the 7 dwarves and didn't really read like how a card is usually described, but this confirms that they're all going to be different. I want to say it confirms that they're all going to be in no more than 2 colours, because otherwise having all 7 of them in play would be pretty much impossible. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe that's going to be an archetype in this set, similar to how we had Amber, Steel, Musketeers in set 1. Maybe we're going to get, Sapphire, Ruby, dwarves or something like that. I'm not sure, but that'd be interesting to see. Rhea and Sisu, we obviously do both of those. We've already seen a Rhea card, and we've seen the art for Sisu on the sleeves. Merlin and Madam Mim we've now seen. Labouring Through the Day, Hercules, Pain and Panic. This, I think, is the first mention of a Hercules card. Whether or not it's referring to Bodyguard from set 1, or we are getting new Hercules cards, we don't know yet. This one's more interesting though. Get a Clue. Basil, Hiram Fleversham and Mrs. Judson, all from Basil Great Mouse Detective. Again, we've already seen Dinnerbell and Mouse Armor from that IP, but obviously great to see confirmed names of characters that we're going to get. And then finally, Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde. I think that's the first time we've seen Nick mentioned. Judy is mentioned on the back of one of the starter decks, but again, nice to see it confirmed. So lots more names coming. Obviously nothing really here that we didn't expect, but nice to kind of see it written down. The only other thing that I think is worth note is the first two optional points here, Paradigm Shift and Embrace the Flood. Paradigm Shift reads have 2 characters with Shift in play. Embrace the Flood reads have 2 Floodborn characters in play. Now, currently, that is the exact same thing because all Floodborn characters have Shift. All characters with Shift are Floodborn. Does this mean we're going to see non-Floodborn characters with Shift? Does this mean that we're going to see Shift abilities on other types of characters? I don't think it does. They've been very clear that Floodborn characters all have the Shift ability. I'm pretty sure that's even quotable from an article at some point. I'll try and see if I can find it, but I definitely remember them saying that that is how they work. Thematically, clearly that's how they work as well. I don't just want to say that this is just a slip through the net here and that both one of those shouldn't be there, because every time I said that during the spoiler season of Set 1, I was wrong. Every single time I was like, oh, that might just be a mistake on Ravensburger's part. It wasn't, and it turned out to be a thing. So I don't necessarily want to say here that this is maybe a mistake. But yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe somehow they are going to be different sort of conditions to get this point. But as far as I can see, currently, having 2 characters with Shift in play and having 2 Floodborn characters in play is the same thing. Maybe they mean have 2 characters that were shifted, because that is technically different from Floodborn. You can just play Floodborn characters for their full cost. Maybe it means that. I don't know. I'd be interested. Am I missing something? Let me know in the comments if I'm missing something and this is not a thing. But there we go. Thank you so much for watching. A few really awesome new cards there. I am more excited for what those cards suggest we're getting as a deck type, more so than the cards themselves, but they're still really great fun. We'll be chatting about all of this stuff in depth again on our new weekly live show this week in Ink. That's going to be starting on Monday the 23rd. I really would love to see you there. Until the next one, be good.